Hey everyone, RemanX here, and I want to go over a couple of the changes to War here. It's going to be a big deal, especially because some of the things are kind of thrown askew for those of us trying to do some testing. Right now, I'm going to say that to a certain degree, the practice mode in War is off, and we'll talk about that in a very big detail here going forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the overarching premise that you can no longer cancel attacks. And there's probably a few exceptions, which you're going to discuss with your alliance mate, but we're going to start right here because this is what I've been getting all week about this, and I want to get some clarity out there. First things first, I was not part of the playtest, so all this information has been kind of gleaned from the blogs and from the dialogues from people who have just been able to start talking about this now that this has gone live. So I want to make sure you guys understand that this is just a conglomeration of information, especially based on the information that you guys asked me. So starting with the most important thing, it isn't exactly like Crucible where you're necessarily going to get victory points. It's basically number of attempts. So it's much like War was previously when you thought about it, that you had a number of attempts with the exception of where there were these races at the end where players were able to finish in the last few seconds. Those are sort of going away, but the top alliances will say that they're still out there. The reason why this is different is there's a new effect called exhaustion. What this means is room bonuses and teams that were typically quote unquote unbeatable will allow you to, as long as you kill a main character that breaks apart the team synergy, you will get an exhaustion buff that makes the next follow-up very, very easy. So it could happen multiple times if you need to, but it means that full clears are more likely. Now, something else to consider, everybody starts with their full 10 energy when wars go live. So as a leader, you have to plan your pacing on that based on the number of people that you're going to have online if you're used to winning more wars. The big plus to this is you no longer have to worry about your opponent, sweeping the leg, per se, by going for your armory and your hangar early on, especially during big punch-ups. Ultimately, it's your decision to target rooms when you go through this, and we're going to highlight this in kind of my idea of importance, and we'll get some dialogue. Again, this is my initial thoughts. We'll definitely have some dialogue around this and hopefully get some real in practice here. So first things first, right now, the bonus for the Black Order is being tied to a room, which is terrible, because right now, when you go to practice, you can't practice against Black Order. Rest assured, I've been told that for most teams, except those which we are, by the way, we're starting to see, 3 million plus teams with Black Order because of the way the buffs are going up, that these teams are easily beaten by War Dogs. So bookmark that. I want to make sure you guys have that in the top of your mind. Whether or not that's actually executable during this war will come down to, whether the data we got from the playtest was accurate. So the rooms that have changed now, security, engineering, bridge, and I believe reactor are staying the same. All right. Hangar and armory have changed to give you more defensive bonuses. And we're going to talk about this specifically. Okay. So you can see this room bonus is not something you can practice. That's not there. And then you'll see the bonus to Knowhere allies. Okay. It looks like that's a room bonus in there. We'll double check that. Okay. Cargo bay. 10% primary stats. So all of your primary stats to your characters. I don't believe that's speed. In fact, I don't think anything affects speed on that. We'll double check. I believe they said that wasn't speed for intents and purposes when they did the testing. And then, so the cargo bay probably drops down a little bit based on that. Then we're going to talk about hangar. Now, hangar's a new room bonus that's going to probably change how you organize your defense. Now, because it buffs adjacent targets and gives them barrier, for the most part, this is like a 15% health boost for some teams. Now, again, some teams are vulnerable with barrier against some of the newer teams. Some teams get an extra benefit from barrier. It's up to you to decide how you want to use this. You can think about this from perspective of what teams utilize barrier the best, and how you want to buff the rooms on this. But again, if you're going to put this in the middle of every room bonuses, then you may not get the best out of it because you betray your defenses at some point. All right, Medbay. The 20% max health, especially with the new changes, is probably a little bit higher than it was previously because you've taken away some of the room bonuses from barracks, etc. So you've moved them into other rooms. So barracks is now 20% resistance and focus to defending war-ready allies. That is a difference. In the past, it had the lion's share of your defensive bonuses, and now that it has just the resistance and focus, it's probably going to become a consideration when you're punching up to potentially skip this or allocate this if you start to see G18 Blue ISO 5. And then Armory with the bonus damage, probably still something that you want to take into account for. Armory probably still a big deal. The plus 20% damage without the bonuses that we got previously, like, you know, the hanger deflect bonuses, are going to feel bad because damage is just going to come straight into teams, and some of the teams that worked previously work less effectively without hanger, specifically things like Shadowlands. So this is something to take into account. I am not a huge fan of all of these war changes. I think that the overarching premise of all the energy coming in, great idea. I think that, you know, holding people accountable for cancels, phenomenal. Remember, again, I'm going to reemphasize this. There are very few situations you are going to cancel, specifically against Knowhere teams and probably Gamma, if the only solution is your team, like a Gamma counter, your hard Gamma counter based on your alliance. You don't want to exhaust that and not have that for a later team and lose potentially some of the momentum your alliance can have towards the end of a war. All that taken into consideration, I think as long as you kill Red Hulk, you could potentially just move on and it'll still be a win, especially if you're punching up greatly. Biggest problem right now is without a live war, we have no idea how all this is going to work. So practice mode feels dead. And that to me is probably the most frustrating part of all this. Is practice mode was where a lot of the theory crafting happened. And without the fact that you can't turn on a full war, have the room bonuses, you know, really see how this benefits, it's just going to be the live testing. And some players have already had access to that and have advanced knowledge of this. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware that is the only drawback from when testing's done, is that advanced knowledge doesn't always trickle in effectively to the community. So hopefully you get some videos that showcase some of these as we progress through war in the next few hours and really see the impact these have. I think that's going to be highly important to engage with the members of the community, highlighting their war attacks to kind of showcase what really feels right and what doesn't. And these are the differences in the overall war scenario. So probably move your hanger so it buffs more rooms to give the additional barrier. You probably prioritize your armory as probably a headache with the bonus damage. Again, without the actual hanger bonuses mattering anymore, we just don't have the extra defenses at the start of war. And then looking at potentially the cargo bay, armory, and med bay. Med bay may come ahead with the current war scenario with the bonus base stats being so high. So we'll have to see, especially if we're finding that our bonus damage that's missing from the first early attacks until we get our armory and hangar taken away are hurting our performance collectively. So anyway, I hope this clarified it. Last thing to sum up, don't cancel nerds. Stop canceling nerds. You don't need to. Work with your alliance. The only exception would probably be Gamma and Nova without clear counters. You'll get the defensive bonus is probably gonna overcome any of the issues you've had. Another one might still be Heroes for Hire if you keep the 4 Heroes for Hire up, but I don't see that being a thing. There's probably some. I'm trying to think. There really isn't anything else that's really going to be that much of a headache on defense these days. We'll have to see if the 3.5 million plus what are they going to be? The 3.5 million plus Black Order are going to be as much of a headache outside of War Dogs. If War Dogs just wins, then you're going to be allocating and saving those. Another thing is probably for the first few wars, just to keep yourself moving forward, isolate teams that you can pull off a defense and have a little bit more offense to be able to overcome some of the new teams you might see on defense. Because I do think that people negate the reliability of a team like like Underworld by putting him on defense. And so you want to give your opponent a good look at defense, but you don't want to make sure that you're clearing as soon as possible, especially because if you can get your full alliances, full 10 attacks, and have very few losses, you set yourself up for a pretty good position to win. Anyway, guys, love you much. Looking forward to your feedback. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion about this. I do feel like Armory still, again, with the bonus damage, still going to be up there as far as a room priority. I think that Hanger, believe it or not, the longer it can buff some of these rooms, the better off you are. And we'll have to see how you guys do. Stay tuned.